Carrie Lam meets government staff to discuss political reform. Occupy Central and role of police continues to divide society. And the death toll climbs in typhoon-hit Japan.
Good evening. Political reform and Occupy Central were on the agenda as Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam met with civil service and disciplined services representatives today. Among the items discussed, the impact on government staff of an upcoming report on constitutional reform. Evelina Lung has more.
In what was described as a rare gesture, Carrie Lam called a meeting with members of disciplined services and civil service unions. Those who attended the meeting included members of the Police Force Council staff side, as well as representatives of the Disciplined Services Consultative Council and the Model Scale 1 Staff Consultative Council. After the meeting, Police Representative Joe Chan said today's topics included an upcoming report to be submitted by the government on political reform and how it would affect civil servants. There are reports the proposal will be released as early as next week, but Chan stopped short of going into details of the discussion. He said during much of the meeting, the Chief Secretary for Administration listened to their opinions. Chan said he had asked for an increase in manpower and resources for the force to tackle future challenges. However, he denied the request is linked to the Occupy Central movement. The police representative also pointed out that the Chief Secretary voiced her support for the force during the meeting today. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
Police Commissioner Andy Chung has refuted accusations police abused their powers when handling recent protests. This as more groups voiced their concerns about Occupy Central. Jonathan Lee has that story.
The police have been criticized for the way they treated those who took part in the July 1st rally and the Chater Road sit-in afterwards. Officers have been accused of using unnecessary force against them. The police chief hit back today.
Now that's a very dangerous assertion. The force, being a law enforcement agency, will have to abide by the law in whatever action it takes.
Today, rival protesters were out in force, those who are against the use of force as well as those who support the police. Tsang insisted officers are politically neutral. Meanwhile, the Alliance for Peace and Democracy, a group that is against Occupy Central, announced today that it will begin its signature campaign on July 19th. Describing the 790,000 votes garnered by the Occupy Central's mock referendum as inflated, spokesman Robert Chow said its goal of gathering 800,000 signatures would be met in a legitimate way.
We can't prevent fraud. If I do it in Wong Kok, then I go to somewhere else, and I go to somewhere else, and I can walk around 7 different polling signature stations, and I can sign 7 times. What does that prove? It proves that you are a cheat. Doesn't prove that we can stop you from doing it.
Both permanent residents and visitors can sign up. Chow said people have the right to voice their views, even if they only stay here for a handful of days. Jonathan Lee, TVB News.
Banking giant HSBC has lowered Hong Kong's GDP growth forecast for this year and next. It dropped this year's forecast from 3.7% to 2.9%, equaling 2013. For 2015, the bank lowered its growth forecast from 4% to 3.7%. HSBC said first quarter results have been disappointing, with quarter-on-quarter growth at its slowest rate in 2 years. It cited a slowdown in domestic demand, topped with sluggish visitor numbers and weak exports. But it also believes the downturn has already bottomed or will soon, and expects recovery in the U.S. and Europe to lift the city's net exports in the second half of 2014.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said today the United States and China had frank talks on cybersecurity. It was one of the key issues at the strategic and economic dialogue in Beijing this week. Kerry said the loss of intellectual property through hacking has had a chilling effect on innovation and investment. He added such activity is hurting U.S. companies. Kerry made no mention of a New York Times report suggesting significant Chinese hacking of information about U.S. government personnel. State Councillor Yang Jieche stressed cyber hacking is a common concern for all countries, a problem that requires cooperation and trust to manage. U.S. fugitive Edward Snowden, whose sensational leaks last year exposed the scope of American spying activity, is planning to extend his stay in Russia. It comes amid more revelations of the U.S. spying on its allies and own citizens. Tony Sabine reports.
Nearly a year after being granted asylum in Russia, former U.S. intelligence analyst Edward Snowden is planning to extend his stay in the country. His Russian lawyer says Snowden, whose leak of classified documents exposed the extent and depth of U.S. spying activity around the world, made the application to Russia's migration authorities. His one-year permit expires at the end of this month. Snowden's lawyer did not say what kind of migration status his client is seeking, only saying the decision rested with Russian authorities. Washington has consistently demanded that the whistleblower be handed over to American authorities to face justice for leaking classified material. Some of the revelations in the Snowden files included information that the US was actively snooping on its allies as well as adversaries. Some of those targets included close allies like Germany. German authorities are now investigating a second case of a government employee suspected of spying for the US. Public prosecutors confirmed yesterday that the home and office of a defense ministry employee in Berlin had been searched and that evidence like computers and data storage devices were taken. It comes just days after a member of Germany's intelligence agency confessed to have passed more than 200 confidential files to the CIA. And in another revelation about American spying activity, journalist Glenn Greenwald, who helped publish Snowden's leaks, reported that US spy agencies snooped on the emails of 5 high-profile Muslim Americans in an effort to identify potential security threats. The targets are said to include a lawyer, a professor, and a political operative. Tony Sabine, TVB News.
Typhoon Nagari took a toll on a farming town in central Japan where it triggered a landslide and killed a young boy. That's raised the number of dead in the country to 3. The storm hit the island of Kyushu today.
A closed-circuit camera caught the moment the landslide was unleashed upon the town of Nagiso. With it, a ton of rocks and boulders came tumbling down. Even the town mayor was in shock, saying the storm wasn't supposed to hit until later. He admits they were completely caught off guard when a downpour of 70 millimeters of rain per hour hit them hard. In its wake, a 12-year-old boy was killed. Plus, 3 other people in the boy's family were injured when the muddy deluge came crashing through their home and literally swept it away. The boy's death brings the total number of fatalities caused by the storm to 3. Weakened but still packing wind gusts of up to 126 kilometers per hour, the typhoon also left at least 50 people injured nationwide. Broken bridges and train tracks were left in ruins as workers scrambled to get things back in order. Even with Typhoon Nagari downgraded to a tropical storm, evacuation orders were issued in southern Japan, affecting the prefectures of Kagoshima and Miyazaki. Local officials are strongly warning residents that torrents of rainfall could trigger even more landslides and floods. Japan's meteorological agency reiterated the same message. A representative stated that even though the chance of violent winds has pretty much vanished, some areas may get as much as a month's worth of rain over the next 24 hours. He also warned those living in eastern Japan remain at high risk for the onslaught of lightning and tornadoes.
An expanding Israeli offensive on Gaza is stretching into its third day as Hamas rockets continue to pelt Israel. The Israeli military campaign has killed at least 75 Palestinians, and as James Aiken reports, the deteriorating situation is increasing worries of a lengthy conflict.
After enduring Hamas rocket attacks, Israel is responding with an escalated aerial assault on Gaza.
Gaza is on a knife edge. The deteriorating situation is leading to a downward spiral, which could quickly get beyond anyone's control.
The Israeli military says it's aiming for underground tunnel networks, rocket launching sites, and homes of senior Hamas members it says are used as command centers. But so far, most of the dozens killed have been Palestinian civilians. One pre-dawn strike killed 8 members of a family, including 5 children.
Israel is using precision strikes to avoid harming civilians. But Hamas is exploiting our concern for human life by hiding in Palestinian homes, schools and mosques, and using a Palestinian hospital as the headquarters.
We are extremely concerned. I think Israel is going out of control. Innocent people are paying the price in their lives. I think the United States should rein in Israel. They are the only country that can.
Washington continues to urge restraint on both sides.
There's a strong difference between rocket attacks launched by a terrorist organization that is based in Gaza and the right of Israel to defend itself. At the same time, it's important at this point in time to see if all sides can take steps to de-escalate.
But there are signs Israel is set for a lengthy campaign. Israeli tanks and artillery are now taking positions near the Gaza border, and tens of thousands of army reservists are being mobilized, raising the possibility that the Israeli offensive is about to enter a new phase. James Aiken, TVB News.
And when we come back, many low-income families say they don't benefit from government subsidy scheme. India unveils budget that focuses on economic growth. And it'll be Argentina versus Germany in the World Cup final.
It was the last of the semi-finals. The Netherlands' defense held up well against Messi. But with both sides adopting a conservative approach, the match ended in a shootout. 2014 FIFA World Cup Brazil. Daily highlights. Tonight at 8 on Pearl.
World Championship Boxing returns to Macau. Chinese national icon and twice Olympic gold medalist Zhou Shiming will fight on July 19th at the Venetian Macau Cotai Arena. Book now at CotaiTicketing.com.
Aha! Robin Hood here. I love giving away money. Wouldn't it be great to do it every day? With DirectAsia.com. You'll always get the best price guaranteed on car insurance every day of the week. How's that for giving back to the people? Oh, no. You're welcome. DirectAsia.com. Best price guaranteed on car insurance. Easy.
We can't explain everything we see. The world is full of wonders.
We're the line between world and the much weirder world. What were you after?
The truth. What are you after?
World peace.
We're not exactly a team, but we're in a position to do some good.
You all right?
We'll deal with that later, at length.
Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. premieres Monday night at 10:40 on Pearl.
Welcome back. And this just in, the government will unveil its political reform report